Hello, and you're very welcome to this edition of the Under Center podcast. I'm, of course, your host, Darren Marr. I am joined by, I guess no one this evening. Fionn and Rian are off, having to do a couple of things, so they're busy this week. But I'm not totally left by myself. I'm delighted to be joined by Nathan Hearty, quarterback of the Louth Mavericks. Nathan, how are you, sir?
I'm fine, Dara. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate the offer and glad to be here.
No problem at all. No problem at all. Listen, like I said, during the week, you unfortunately drew the short straw. But I guess being the QB and the face of the team, I guess you got to do some media duties every now and again.
Oh yeah, no, I suppose I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be here. I suppose probably just being the quarterback. It's a part of the job at the end of the day. And look, it's just glad to come on here and give me my piece.
Excellent stuff. Excellent stuff. Well, we have plenty of questions to ask you this evening, not just from myself. Of course, we opened the suggestion box on Instagram, and there's plenty to ask you, especially about this past weekend's game, which we will get into in more depth in a little bit. But let's have a chat about the season as a whole for the Mavericks, because you've started like a storm in a teacup, 6-0 in your first 6 games this year. Of course, last year in Division 2 with ourselves and the Giants and the Jets and the Razorbacks as well. Going through most of the season unbeaten, unfortunately losing the last game of the year, then unfortunately losing the bowl game, but still getting promoted with the Razorbacks and the Jets. And just looking at some of these scores, 33-0, 56-0, 53-7, 34-0, 49-0, 15-13. Like, these are Madden scores. These aren't, you're playing the game on easy mode at the moment. This QB lark must be quite fun.
Oh yeah, look, we've been going well, as the scores reflect. But look, it has been a real team effort this year. We've been very lucky to kind of build off of last year. We struggled. We did struggle for numbers, even though we, all in all, we had a successful season. And so this year, kind of the main focus was to keep, the momentum going. We were very lucky to get some former players back, some lads that kind of hadn't come back to us after the break because of COVID. And so it's kind of just been a case of everything coming together. And, it has been very much team orientated, you see the scores of the offense, the likes of Brendan Sims, Eamon Ward, Oisin Finn, all these names in the articles and the write-ups at the end of the week. But it is as much the defense as it is anything, shutting teams out, getting that ball back for us in these spots. So rather than us having to go 60, 70 yards down the field, we can just, work it a lot better that way. But yeah, look, it's been going well so far, but we had a real tough test there Sunday gone, just literally last couple of seconds, and the field goal we just stole away nearly. But look, 6-0, but we got to keep this going, because every game nearly we are looking at is a harder game. And look, it's where we want to be, and we're coming into the business end of the year now. We just kind of want to make something of it, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, totally. And I guess that game, especially on Sunday against the Rhinos, were playing a, Shamrock Bowl caliber team. I know that they were just relegated, but like a lot of those players have Shamrock Bowl Premier Division experience.
Yeah.
And that is a true test to see where the team is coming along at the moment, and especially winning away from home too.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Like, no, it was a tough game now Sunday. Like you could tell with them, like they were unlucky to have lost Eton there the week before, and they done well to adjust. We got to see the game film there now just yesterday, and looking back at it, you do really get to see how they set up and how they tried to adjust. And look, they did run the ball well on us, and they moved the chains, and the defense was very hard. How they set up, how they tried to scheme against us. You know, you could definitely see that they were a team that had done their homework and were guys that knew what they were doing. And yeah, look, we were very lucky to get out of there with the win. You know, it wasn't as kind of plain sailing as it had been for us in prior weeks. But I suppose the way we look at it is, it was a new challenge, you know, and it kind of showed us where we were in terms of how we can bounce back. You know, it was, I think, the first time we gone behind this year, so it was great nearly for us to see how we can bounce back and how we can adjust when things aren't going our way as they maybe had been in prior games.
Yeah, and now there's been talk online, especially about the Rhinos and that Castleknock pitch. Was it as bad as it's been reported?
No, it was in good nick now on Sunday. I think I think one of our coaches had said that it was a different pitch maybe than what
Right.
other games had been on. Look, I don't know that might be the case, but no, it was a nice surface. Look, it was a good day too, and it kind of I think the weather had been good during the week, so it was in good condition for us. So that certainly made things a bit easier on the day.
Yeah, and with that win now, especially on Sunday, leads perfectly into your next game, which is this top of the table clash against the Vikings. You know, I think it's probably become now the biggest game in Ireland on the 4th of June. With I know I saw your eyebrows move there. Thinking,
Yeah,
is
it's
it
just
possibly it the way that both teams have played this year, and the fact that, you know, like that, how strong your offense has been, and how strong that the Vikings defense has been as well. It's definitely a game that I think a lot of people are marking on their calendars, myself included, as one that they dare not miss.
oh yeah, no, definitely. Look, when we kind of started looking ahead towards, you know, when we were kind of, you know, the season was progressing as it has been for us. Look, we seen that fixture kind of at the end of the season, and we kind of look, we do try to take it one game at a time, but you know, we had it in the back of our minds that, you know, this was a real possibility, and like as of now, the result there on Sunday, you know, it is undefeated versus undefeated. We've seen a few of the, I think, Viking boys down scouting us, so it is really kind of, you know, we need to have our heads screwed on right. You know, we know what they are capable of. I'm sure they know what we are capable of, and it's just really a case of this is where you want to be. You know, you want to be going up against the best, and in situations like that, you know, at the start of the year, this is what you kind of plan to be. The situation you plan to be in, and yeah, look, we're looking forward to it, as probably they are too, and it's probably the biggest teller of how the postseason now could shape up and things like that. You know.
Yeah, totally. And look, even better, just for my own personal, like, being a little bit selfish here, I'm delighted that you are playing at home, so I don't have to go across the Limerick. I can just pop up there to Dundalk Rugby Club and catch it. So it's not too bad, not too bad of a drive anyway. On
No.
the Sundays, especially after training, for sure. But um, we mentioned a little bit at the start about Division Two, when you spent the year last year down in Division Two. How did you feel that was for yourself personally, and then for the team as a whole, to try and get back on track? Like you said, numbers were an issue last year, but the talent and the quality in those numbers were still there to help get you through the year. And was it something that you felt needed to do, sort of, not so much have an easy ride of it? I don't think it's an easy ride in terms of just trying to get playing competitive football games, rather than, say, if you were in Division One last year, whereas it would have been maybe a little more difficult to be as competitive.
Yeah, no, I do know what you're saying. Look, it was my rookie season last year, so it did in a way maybe play to my advantage that, you know, like what you were saying, you know, I was able to kind of grasp it. Look, the kind of maybe the style of offense we even ran last year was different. So I suppose it was a good way to kind of blood me into the sport and how, because like up until then I just played flag, and so because of the whole break with COVID that time, that was my going to be my first year last, or that was my first year last year. Um, so definitely, like, we chose to drop down because of just the situation the club was in, numbers wise and different things, and we felt it was the best it was the best path for us to take. And look, it did stick to it. We did stand. It did stand to us, and yeah, like I feel like we had a lot of rookies. Like there's 3 other guys on that Mavericks team now with me that had uh, played on the Mavericks U team a couple of years ago. So for them to start playing football there and get the run of things that way, I feel it has really played into giving them confidence and giving other guys confidence now that have joined the team and kind of to allow us to be like, no, we can play competitive football, we can play winning football. And look, yeah, we didn't win it all in the end, but I think we took from it that no, when we kind of put the work in, we put the right schemes in and everything come together, that we can actually come up and compete with teams and be the best.
Mm-hmm. Excellent, yeah. And tell me a little bit about yourself then, Nathan. Why American football? What drew you into wanting to play American football?
Well, I always kind of nearly had an interest in it, I suppose. Like, when you're a child, you're watching, the shows on TV and the movies, and you always see the whole the dramatic element of it. But so I suppose I always had an interest in it that way. And I have an uncle who lives in New York, so I'd be a Giants fan myself. So I always had an eye for the Giants, and he was in New York, and he kind of would have been a Giants fan. And then they won the Super Bowl in 2011, and so that kind of garnered my interest a bit more. And it was actually, I think, what the defining moment I would say that probably got me into the sport was there was a lad in my class in primary school who was into it, and I think I started trying to get into it because he was into it, and from there I just started watching it more and more, and from that I started playing Madden, and just then kind of from there it just grew and grew and grew to now me playing it. So yeah, it was always something different than everybody else, and kind of still, people find out you play American football, their heads nearly kind of tilts a bit and their eyebrows raised. But it's something that it's you know what I mean, like it's something different, I'm sure. Like it's good crack, as you know, as we all know here.
It's good crack, but it's sore, man.
Yeah,
That's the problem. It's sore. Tell me though, this is actually great because I think, are you the first quarterback we've had on this year? No, we've had Finn on from the Vikings, but I didn't actually ask him this. Considering now this is only your second year, what was it like the first time then you got sacked, and how bad was it?
First time I got sacked, I think it would have been it was the first game in Antrim last year against the Jets, and I think it was, I suppose, like I'd always played rugby growing up, so I was used to it. But I suppose it's kind of different when at times you have, you're on your back foot and you have 3 huge men running straight for you, and you kind of have to try and navigate through that. And I suppose when your eyes are downfield and you get the clatter from somewhere, you weren't looking and you're not expecting it. It kind of, you're always trying to anticipate it that way. But the first time, I think it was the Jets. I can't think. I'm trying to exactly remember, because there was a few times like last year where there was games where you were kind of just getting hit and hit and hit, and it was the Jets, and like they did like last year the Jets were very strong on the defensive line, so it was kind of a common trend at times. But it was, I can't exactly think of it now, but it was one of them. There was probably a few that day, so I probably gone out of my head because maybe a few hits that day. But look, sure, it's part of the game, isn't it?
There's probably a few Jets listening to this. I'm probably thinking, "Yep, that was me. That was me. That sort of tried to end his life there a little bit." Tell me then, you, since you are a Giants fan that you just admitted there, why number 7?
Number 7. I don't know. I think it was well, like I've the Ohio State topping me now. So CJ Stroud is a guy, I've loved watching the last kind of 2 years for Ohio State, and kind of how he plays and how, his game and how he manages the game and his decision making like that. So I suppose I always love watching CJ, and I suppose number 7, it was just a number, you see with Ronaldo even too, the brand he's built on the CR7 and things like that. It just, I don't know, I just always thought it was that kind of number that that just had that ring to it. I suppose I just never gave it much thought. I just was like, no, I like that number. Sure,
Fair enough. So a
I'll wear that one.
bit of NH7 in the future then.
Maybe,
Some nice
hopefully,
merchandise, yeah.
if we can get to that stage, maybe.
Perfect. Well, look, listen. When you are setting that sort of stuff up, just remember who had you on the show first and who helped you figure out that
Oh yeah,
trademark there. So send some of that free gear my way for sure. I take it 2x, please. 2x, please, just for that, right?
absolutely.
Right. So before we move on to sort of the weekend's action, let's actually let's have let's do it. Let's have a chat about, or not even chat. I'll ask you some of the questions we've gotten from some of our listeners for this show, and I'm going to start out with an easy one. This one's from John McCardle, and he wants to know who is his favorite O lineman and why.
Oh, you said that was an easy one. John's really put me on the spot there now.
Just think how difficult the rest of them are then if I thought that was easy.
Who is my favorite? I don't know. I think I have different types of favorites, I have like John's there. John's the seasoned veteran there. You can't but love John, being number 56. And then I have Connor Scott. Me and Connor we've been at school together since first year, and we played on that youth team. He was one of the guys I was on about earlier. And then you got Big Roo there, Aaron McCardle, John's brother. Lynchy, he's my center. I gotta give love to Lynchy at center. I don't know. I have to say every one of the boys has their own qualities and their own favorite, or they're my favorite. What am I saying? They're a favorite in their own way. That's what I'm trying to put. I can't choose. It's like trying to choose between your children.
Very good answer. Very good answer. I'm sure they'll be all happy with that one there for sure. Next one we have is from Evan Quigley. Actually, Evan plays for the Vikings. We had him on the show a couple of weeks ago. Evan, I hope you're doing well. Maybe trying to do a little bit of scouting before the game. We'll see if, with this one. How many players consistently play both ways for the Mavs?
Let me see. No, like this year, like all last year, it was mainly Iron Man. Most positions, like I think I was only myself and somebody else, maybe two or three other guys that weren't playing both sides constantly. But for us, there's a couple of boys on the D line mainly would be kind of both ways, maybe offensive line, or would be, I can think of maybe a few lads that would rotate in at running back and linebacker. So I'd say maybe 4, maybe 5, but all in all, we have like a guy for each position, more or less. So yeah, no, we have depth. We have depth.
Perfect. We have. Yeah. Well, listen. Next question is about what, so we'll get into it. This is from Owen Fahy. Oski also plays for the Vikings. A lot of Vikings. They're trying to figure out your game plan. I think now before June 4th for sure. So Owen is wondering, are you going to mention the 12 men on the field? So look, let's get into it. The picture's gone around social media of 12 men on the field for the game-winning field goal against the Rhinos on Sunday. Listen, it's not your guys' responsibility to point out to the refs and say, hey, look, listen, we have 12 guys on the field here, just to let you know. It's up to the refs. Obviously, from what I was told, that the Rhinos spent a good chunk of time leading up to that kick yelling at the referee, saying that there's 12 men on the field, but nothing was done about it. But I'll open the floor up to you there, Nathan, on that. It's kind of difficult when you are the team that are beneficiaries of it when something like this happens.
Oh yeah, no, look, Yeah, no, I agree. Like if we were in the Rhino shoes, we'd be saying the same. It's one of them calls where it goes your way, it's the best thing in the world. When it doesn't, it's the worst. Yeah, like it's like we didn't know, like not that we, of course, we didn't deliberately do it, but there was some confusion on our end, because we had changed our kicker. Dak, who was our usual kicker, was switched with Jerry, who then made the game winning field goal. And he so there was confusion on that end where someone came off. The one, I think we brought the two men on, and only one lad came off, and so then I think someone fell on the line, and maybe it was the substitution that they seen. The referees seen someone going off. They just assumed that there was 11 men. But I know I do completely see where the Vinos are coming from, and why the questions were being asked, because like it was a very defining play, and it could end up being more of just that one play, and how the consequences it might have on, final standings for the playoffs, and whether, where teams are seated and things like that, because it boils down to that as well. So look, on our end, we were kind of, it wasn't until after, when we got back to the dressing room, that we kind of had gathered that no, we had 12 men on the field. But as far as we were aware, there was nothing but luxury. We've seen the footage, we've seen the picture, and yeah, look, it was just a case. It's not ideal, but like, these calls are made, and nothing can be done
Well, that's
afterwards.
it. And look, it wasn't a great weekend for officials in Ireland
No.
across multiple games. And that wasn't the only sort of difficulty in that game for yourselves as well, because I believe, was it Wexford were due to send team
Yeah.
provided officials to that game. They sent no one, and I think, what was it, one guy from your team and one guy from the Rhinos ended up having to be sideline officials for it too.
Yeah. We had our guy Ronan Minnock. He was our official, and then the Rhinos had someone on our sideline. Ronan was on there, so there was, yeah. No, I think we got notified the night before the game. I think it was that the Eagles couldn't fulfill the commitment. So yeah, look, it wasn't ideal. It wasn't ideal for us. It wasn't ideal for the Rhinos. It was kind of just the hand we were dealt. And yeah, no, look, there was questions asked, maybe why kind of nearly the TPOs for our game could have maybe reffed your game, and the TPOs that were supposed to take your game could have came to ours as maybe a solution to it. But look, these things kind of happen, unfortunately. But it was just kind of, it was just the way it went.
Yeah, and that's it. And look, there was also, I was told about an incident in the Panthers game as well, where there was a player actually on the Cowboys team that was knocked out in the opening kickoff. The referees didn't enforce the concussion protocols and then was allowed to play on. Now, I wouldn't put all the blame on the referees on that. A good proportion of the blame goes to the referees on that, but it
Yeah,
also should have came down to his team too, saying, "Listen, pal, there's something going on here. You're not right. You shouldn't be playing
yeah.
this game."
Oh no, definitely. Like, look, I know, kind of, it's isn't it? It's like you love to play the sport. You do have to love it, and you got to respect guys' commitment to kind of, we would have fellas too that just want to play no matter what. But at the end of the day, you kind of do have to nearly sometimes just take a step back and be like, look,
Yeah,
it is bigger than the game itself.
yeah. And then the last thing I call out, I'm sorry, I know we talked about it off air. We're gonna have to do it on air. I have to call it out because it's a little closer to home for me. It was the Pirates game against Trinity. Um, First of all, the second touchdown by Trinity shouldn't have counted. It was a strip, fumble, and return for a touchdown. But the player started celebrating from the 10-yard line in with his arms aloft. I'll start off by saying I hate this rule. I do hate this rule. A player should be able to celebrate if he's about to score or for anything. It shouldn't be unsportsmanlike conduct, but it is, unfortunately, in the
Yeah,
bylaws at the moment. The referee should have called a spot foul there and 15 yards back from that, which means the touchdown wouldn't have been allowed. Actually, Aidan McGuire, president of the league, was at our game, called me over after just as that play was finished, and said that to me, and said that play shouldn't have stood because of what he was doing. We had an issue where we are one touchdown, one score down against Trinity. Last 2 minutes of the game, Trinity are just about to start a series on offense. We want to get the ball back. I won't go into the specific of time and stuff like that, but the way the time was counted was incorrect by the referee. We should have had at least 20 seconds on offense to try and get the ball up the field to score. Instead, before the punt on fourth down could even be taken, the referee lifted the ball, blew the whistle. And I'm normally mild-mannered when it comes to getting on the field in terms of losing. I don't lose my head. I lost my head that day, and I'm not proud of that for sure, but that was just a build-up of things. But like I said, not a great week for officials. Look, listen, Nathan, I'm not going to put you in the middle of it there. It's just you're unlucky that it's your week that you're on the show. We will be talking to Aidan Maguire on the show at a later date, hopefully just as the season ends. And look, we'll bring this up again to him. He's already talked about it on the Talking Balls podcast as well, about the standard of refereeing and stuff. So we won't go into it. We'll get back into the questions. Chris McGee has asked, are you bored of throwing all those dimes?
Well, look, it's I don't know, compared to last year, I think we're it was trying to make up for it. I think last year I don't think I had many passing touchdowns at all. If I remember looking at the stats they had on the website. So no, like it's I'd be glad to do it. When you get the opportunity, you take it as it comes to you.
Excellent. Right, that's it. Now Declan Mulville. Is that how it's done?
Mulvihill.
Mulvihill.
Yeah.
See, this flat Dublin accent can't do that. Sorry, I can't roll the tongue like that for that. But anyway, yes, he is your cheat code. For sure. I noticed that last year when we played you guys. What does Nathan see as the future for the Mavericks?
Geez, that's a very, very broad question, I feel. I don't know. I feel we're definitely going in the right direction compared to where we were before. Like from my kind of experience with the Mavericks before I played, they kind of had been a Division 1 team, a consistent Division 1 team. It stayed there. They had the appearance in the SBC a couple of years back, which they unfortunately wasn't a very successful year for them. But I feel like, seeing now, where we are, we've the likes of myself, we have, like to go back to what I was saying about guys from our youth team, that have graduated, myself, Connor Scott on the line. We have Jack Compton at the defensive back, Shane Maguire on the defensive line. Then we have the likes of Brendan Sims, even too, Oisin Finn. We've a lot of names that are younger guys. And I feel like this season has been a case of, it's been a good merger of kind of the more experienced seasoned players to as the more fresher, younger kind of players looking to be birthed into the sport. And I feel that's kind of where our success has come from, and I feel that's where we can build on if we can keep recruiting, because we have added guys compared to last year. Our core guys are still there, and we're building on that, and hopefully now we can keep building on that core. And so, no, for the future, I feel, we can, make a shout for the SBC. We can be up there with the likes of the Minotaurs who've got promoted, the Cowboys the year before who got promoted. I feel we can get there, and if we can keep taking these steps in the right direction, I know I myself want to be there, and I know the lads themselves do too, because it is where, like, when you play the sport, that is where you want to be. You see the kind of the coverage and all that goes with being an SBC team. You want to be there. You want to be saying yourself, you're one of the best 8 teams in Ireland, and I think it's a motivating factor to get there. And I feel, I'd like to say in the future that's where the club will be, and that's where I want to be anyway, for my own personal goals anyways.
Excellent. Well, Deck came back with a second question as well. And he asks, which happens first? A Mavericks Shamrock Bowl win or a Giants Super Bowl win?
Oh, I don't know. I think I'm going to say this. I'm going to say the Giants are going to win the Super Bowl this year, and it's going to happen before a Maverick Shamrock will win, because we won't be there. As in, it won't, like the Giants Super Bowl would periodically have to happen before that, if that makes sense. So I'm trying to be diplomatic in how I say that. That makes
Do
sense
they
as
win
well.
it with Danny Dimes, or would you need a different quarterback?
No, I have faith in Danny. I do. I feel if they can protect him and they can give him guys to throw the ball to, he can do well. Like, his stats don't show, I feel, as good of a year as he had this year. Because he made throws when he had to make throws, and he made them well. So I feel if they can keep building that way with him, the likes of Hyatt now being added to the roster, Darren Waller too, I don't know what the situation is with Saquon, but if you can keep them pieces in together, I feel you can definitely break some ground.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that they actually drafted a running back early in this draft as well. So
Yeah,
maybe that's a little bit of a bargaining chip towards Saquon with a new deal.
yeah. No, definitely no. I think I don't know. I think they're trying to meet in the middle, but I think the Giants' middle is lower than what Saquon's is. And
Yeah.
look, I love Saquon, but I suppose you kind of have to think about everywhere else, on your roster, and the lifespan of kind of running backs in the league. It's probably, is it worth it in the end? Rather. But look, I'm glad it's not my decision to make.
Definitely not. Definitely not. Alan Minto asks, "What's the biggest difference from last season?"
No, I do feel the squad depth. I feel the fact we can know that if a guy goes down with a knock and has to come off, the guy going in to replace him can do the exact same job and give the 100% that fella was already given. Or I feel we've tightened up on the offensive line a lot more than we had this year, which I feel has been kind of the foundation to how the offense has succeeded. And then moving guys like Brendan Sims now to the receiver. We've gotten Eamon Ward back. Alex Hanratty, who it was his first year as well. Along with me, him having that year under his belt to grow and kind of to understand the game that bit more. Now he's even now gone up in strength. So kind of having more weapons on offense, as well as the offensive line being a lot better. It has proven kind of, or it has allowed us to succeed as we do. So I feel that has been a big difference, because last year, the kind of philosophy was run, 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 because I suppose it all is mainly what we could do because of the limited resources we had. So the fact now we've broadened that has allowed us to open the playbook up a lot more, and I think that kind of is the biggest difference.
Mm-hmm. And last listener question from the lads at Talking Balls.
Mm-hmm.
Does Nathan always start his day with a hearty breakfast?
I'd love to say he does, but I can't. It depends on the day. It depends. I try to, but I can't always live up to the name, unfortunately.
It's all right. It's all right. Maybe not hearty with the breakfast, but hearty, especially when it comes to the amount of touchdowns you're getting each week, for sure.
Yeah, sure, yeah, absolutely.
Put it that way. Put it that way.
Yeah,
It's a reach, but look, it will do for that. And that's all the listeners' questions. We thank everyone for sending in a question for Nathan. One thing I want to touch on before we have a look at the weekend's games, actually, is you talked about the youth team, and how yourself and three of the other lads have come and graduated through the youth team and been able to play. How important did you feel that it has been to play youth football first before coming into senior kids? Because we only talked about it with Finn on the show last week as well, because obviously the Panthers, they have a lot of youth graduates, and that actually helped them keep them afloat in the difficult times as well. But like, for yourself, first of all, personally, how do you feel, how important do you feel it is to get you ready for playing like senior kid football, and then as a whole for a team to sort of keep the talent pool sort of, on, get that conveyor belt sort of going to keep getting players on the team?
Oh no, definitely. I feel it's. I feel if the sport kind of wants to keep growing in Ireland, and teams want to keep, you know, like you said, the rosters afloat, and keep producing um players that way. It's a big part. Like we had the one team in 2019, I think it was, and like that we have 4 guys now from that team that are now playing on our team. So like if you could run a U team every year and you're getting 4 guys every year adding to your roster, you know, sooner rather than later you're going to definitely see, the benefits of that, and the production going up. But yeah, no, definitely like you kind of like to go back to saying what I had said before about I had just played. I started just playing flag, and flag is kind of great. You kind of get to see and learn kind of the basics um of the game. And that's how I started learning how to throw and catch, and running your routes, and how to cover, and just learning then some of the concepts of the game. But I think when you go into kid, it adds in then of course the element of the contact, and how how you have to operate, and how you have to rely on each other more, if that makes sense. So definitely it shows kind of it's a great learner to get to the game. And I feel it is great, if you're a 17, 18-year old looking to just start the game. It's a lot, um, I think, more accessible option than if you're going into a team full of maybe 30 lads, who've played the sport for 5+ years, as opposed to you starting with a youth team of fellas your same age as you, in the same, you know, situation as you. Like that's what it was for me. We all started, and yeah, a few of us had already played flag, but to go in there and be surrounded with fellas that were in the exact same boat as us, it kind of allowed for us to kind of grow together. If that makes sense.
It does definitely, and like that, and that's one thing that I think is a great thing to push. We're seeing so many teams now that are going back, now that we're on the other side of COVID, to go back to sort of setting up their youth teams and like that. I think the Minotaurs announced that they're setting up their youth team. I think almost nearly every team in the Premier Division has or is going to start the youth team, which is great to see. It gets people in the game from a younger age, like you mentioned, and especially when the flag season's over, you get into it and you get that little taste. It's sort of that nice build. It's sort of getting you ready so that, like you said, you don't feel like you're out of your depth when you go into the senior kid, when you're playing with guys who have been playing it, like you said, for 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like I think like we're looking to start get the team going back ourselves. And no, it is great. Like it allows you to even to learn the basics of the game in a, a safer capacity. You're not going up against the big brutes of lads. Or you know you can do the weeks of training camp. You can do the sessions where you can take it that bit slower than if you were going straight into a an SPC team or whatever it was, just any team, and kind of how maybe fast paced and what you're trying to achieve, a lot quicker that way. You're going into a U team, you're being taught, the basics of how to tackle, how to catch, how to run this right, why you're running this right, why you throw the ball like that, why, you protect the ball like that, you carry it. If you can teach fellas all that in that way, so that, they have that already under their belts, that, when you're going into then your senior kidded team, you already know these basics. So that time taken out, you might have to do with rookies,
Mm-hmm.
is
Definitely.
that's not there. These are already fresh, taught players that you can just slot right into your team.
Definitely. Well then let's move on to the final part and let's have a look at this weekend's games. Obviously for yourselves it's a weekend off to get ready for the game the following week against the Vikings, like we mentioned. I want to get your thoughts on only the 4 games this week. We're meant to have 6. Unfortunately, 2 games have um been called off. First of all, the Jets against the Vikings, due to the Jets not having enough players, and Trinity against the Giants in Division Two has also been called off, because Trinity have decided that well, not decided, but they can no longer compete in the year numbers wise, so they have called it a day for the season. We'll start with we normally start in the Premier Division, but because there's only 1 game in the First Division and it's obviously it concerns yourselves too. The Crusaders at home to the Razorbacks this weekend. What are your thoughts ahead of that game?
No, well, look, it's. I think now, between these top 5 teams in our league now, like every game is bigger than any game had been before, and especially that game now. Like, the Crusaders, like, look, we did beat them, like, in Dundalk, and I think the scoreline didn't show. I think didn't fully reflect the game that it was. Like, they have some good players. Like, of course, quarterback Jordan Farrell. You know what I mean? He is a fine quarterback, and he can definitely make any throw on the field. And I think, like, the day we did play them, I think they had been missing a few fellas, so I don't think it was fully reflective of the type of team they were. And to get the win they did against the Rhinos, as they did, was I think is a real show of where that team is and what that team can do. And then the Razorbacks even themselves now have kind of gotten the second wind, it seems, to make a push for the playoffs and really kind of put a shout in. So no, I feel like it's it is really, I think, marquee matchup this week, and yeah, look, it's a hard one to call. I feel, because what Suntan is doing there in Belfast with them, it's really, like I said, they got on the second wind, and they really have made something out of the season. So look, I don't know. I wouldn't be one to try to call games and then be proven wrong, but yeah, I think it really can go either way this week.
Yeah, and look, when it comes to that, especially that fourth and last playoffs, well, the third and the fourth place, you could say, because it's 3 from 2 with the Crusaders, the Razorbacks, and the Rhinos.
Yeah.
All vying for that. Now the Crusaders are in third at the moment with 6 points. Now they played a game less than both the Razorbacks and the Rhinos, so they have that advantage. They still have more games to play, but the fact that it's so close and it's like that, the winner of this game on Sunday is going to really sort of put themselves in a pole position to get one of those last remaining playoff spots.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. Like, it's kind of, it's great to see. It is great to see the competitiveness, and you want to see, like, the competition between teams trying to make them spots. You don't want it to kind of be set in stone from early on, and it's great to see that teams um can get there and can make something of their season like they have. So, like where we are, yeah, like, the season has gone very well for us so far, but come the playoff time, that's the start of a new season. We know that. I'm sure UL are the same, thinking the same. So I feel it is very, very much anybody's come the playoffs, and that's like whoever is there. Nothing can be taken for granted, and that's where we're looking at it. And yeah, look, I think it is the way it very well could go.
Yeah. Let's move on to the Premier Division then. 3 games in the Premier Division. We'll start with the game on Saturday, and that is, of course, the Dublin Rebels, who are 4-0, going up against UCD, who are 3-2 at the moment. The replay of course, the Shamrock Bowl, but also, of course, of the Week 1 fixture, to which the Rebels won quite handily enough in UCD. What do you think about this game?
I know, like, I think it will be. I think it'll be a good, solid game. Look, the Rebels are a different breed of a team. They have proven that this season. They proved it last year, and I know they got theirs back in the first game of the season, like you were saying, against UCD. But no, I think UCD, I wouldn't write UCD off yet in the season. They do, at the end of the day, it's still the team that won the league last year, and it'll be a solid test. Like when you have Ty Henry on your team, it always, like, that alone gives you that kick that you can go out and win any game. But look, UCD have some solid players, like Dougie, Rory O'Dwyer, guys like that, that are playmakers. I bet, and I can guarantee that the Rebels themselves are still not taking anything for granted. Yeah, look, hopefully it'll be a good game, and that kind of somebody can nearly test the Rebels like that.
Well, definitely not, especially the fact that Cork have played so well as well this year, being 5-0 at the moment.
Yeah.
Everyone thought that it's the Rebels sort of league to just do what they want, but the Admirals are putting a good start. On the UCD side of things, like you mentioned, they are the defending champions. They are on a 2-game win streak as well after sort of their stumbling start to the year. Like I said, losing the first game and their third game against Cork down there in Cork, which is obviously a very tough game. But if they don't win this game on Sunday, they'll be 3-3. And then with the likes of the Panthers and the Trojans coming up just behind them as well, do you think that they would be looking over their shoulder a little bit and making sure that they're going to have to put in a performance this week, and then obviously they'll have 2 more games after that just to make sure that they get that playoff spot?
Oh yeah, look, I think it's come to the business end of the season. Every game matters. Every game in the season does matter anyways, but especially now, and kind of the fact that similar to in our division, how them last few playoff spots are kind of up for grabs, and they're anyone's at this point. And seeing kind of the statement win the Trojans have had there at the weekend, and getting their quarterback back. Now it's they too could really make a push now. Like they've a few home games now. They're is it all their remaining games are at home, or most of them are?
They have the Cowboys at home, which we'll get to now in a bit. Yeah, and then they have the Panthers at home, and then the Rebels at home. So yeah, all their games now are home games.
So when you see it's a hard place to go to and win, especially with what the setup they have down there. So again, like if you're UCD, you're not taking anything for granted, and especially started the season not ideally. So you're definitely looking like, look, we have to make the most of what we have.
Yeah. Let's actually talk about that game then. The Trojans against the Cowboys. The Trojans, like you mentioned, had a really, really strong victory away to the Minotaurs, and they're at home to the Cowboys this week, who unfortunately have not won a game this year and kind of been struggling to get wins. Losing last week as well, 33-0 to the Panthers. I'm guessing there's only sort of one victor in this one.
Yeah, look, I think it's been a tough year. The Cowboys, from what I've gathered, there's been, it hasn't been ideal, and I think they had struggled a bit at times for numbers last year, and maybe I think that is still an issue this year, from what they had in previous years. So, look, I suppose you don't want to write a team off either. But no, like it probably will be hard for them to muster a victory this weekend. Or this next game. But look, I suppose I don't want to be one to write a team off either.
Yeah. And then the last game of the weekend, it's actually a rescheduled game from the cancelled one in week 2, due to the weather. That is the Minotaurs against the Knights. The Minotaurs hoping for a bounce back against the Knights, who have been running a lot of teams close in the league so far this year, but just haven't been able to get over the line and get more than just a single win they've had so far.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like it was a good game between them two earlier in the season. I'm pretty sure like it'll be pretty much the same this go round. Like Joe Kinahan is a very good quarterback, and he can make plays. You've seen at the weekend, the throw he had out on one of their touchdowns. You know what I mean? Like he can make throws like that as best as anybody. And but look, turn to the Knights. You know, we played them pre-season, and like they're still a strong outfit. You know, and like you said, you know, they ran a lot of teams close, maybe exceeded some expectations people had going into the year compared to where they were last year. So definitely, no, I think it's a hard one to call. You know, I think Knights came out on top the last time, but the Minotaurs have a solid team. I think they got Jack Lynch back as well, did they?
Mm-hmm.
So players like that, you know, make differences in games. So I think the Minotaurs could really make a shout this weekend too.
Yeah, and with the Minotaurs and the Knights on 2 points, both 1 and 4, a win for either team getting them up to 4 points, just 2 points behind the Panthers and the Trojans and the UCD as it stands at the moment, obviously depending on what the Trojans and UCD at the weekend, that they could still think that they still have an outside shot at getting that last playoff spot.
Yeah, no, like you kind of you never want to write your season off before it's over. You want to play till the final whistle. And look, you know, I know if it was ourselves in that position, we'd definitely be like, look, every game matters, you know, and you're going to try and push for that win in every game. So, look, it is hard one to tell. Look, it probably is a big ask of the two of them to try and sneak in there, but like you never say never. But I think the likes of UCD, the likes of the Trojans will be hard to kind of pep even the Panthers too. I don't want to write them off either. I think to make up the ground lost will be a big ask, but look, you never say never.
That's it. Never say never. That's right. Nathan, it's been a pleasure having you on the show this evening.
Thanks.
Really enjoyed it. Hopefully you've had a good time for too. And we wish you all the luck next week against the Vikings and of course into the playoffs and beyond.
Thank you, Dara. No, thank you for having me on. It's I appreciate it.
No problem, no problem. I want to see an NH7 sort of banner or something at the when I'm at the game next week, and I want a bit of credit. 12% credit is fine.
Oh, I'll see. I'll try. I'll see what I can. I'll put the Under Center podcast logo in the corner.
Look, see now. This is it. Now we've got the we've got the wheels greased, and now we're moving, man. We've got it here. This is it. This is it. But look, listen. Like I said, thanks so much. If there is anyone listening close to the Dundalk area, around the Louth area, that's interested in playing American football, I want to get in contact with the team. How can they do it?
Well, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on TikTok, Snapchat as well. I think we have an account on. So honestly, send the boys a DM. Alex Sims, you know, is our social media guy. You know, and we be more than glad to have anybody down. You know, and whatever capacity you would want to be in, player, a non-playing member, however, you know, everybody's welcome. So if you're, like you said, in the area looking to come down and get involved any way you can, we'd be more than happy to have you.
Excellent stuff. Excellent stuff. Nathan, like I said, it's been a pleasure, man. Really hope you do the business then next week against the Vikings, and hopefully we might be seeing you in the Premier Division next year.
Oh, hopefully. Thank you for having me, Dara.
No bother. And that's where we're going to wrap up this edition of the show. If you haven't already and you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you comment underneath and let us know who you think is going to win the games this weekend. Also, make sure you follow us on our social channels at UnderCenterPod. On Instagram and on Twitter, both the very same. So make sure you're following us there. And like Nathan said, make sure you're following the Louth Mavericks too on their social media platforms. We keep up to date with their games as well. But that is where we're going to end this edition of the show. So until next time, stay safe and we'll see you soon.